that. Because Ron has been supportive of me, and I've been very supportive of him. And when we used to do a Walk With Me Wednesday, these kids come after me left and right on the screen. They call me and say, oh, you old bitch, you old this, and you old crackhead, and you old this. And I would turn around and tell them, I'm honey, you're probably a beast. And if you're all that, then why not talk to me face to face? Because you know who.
I would have been like, honey. Yo,
yeah, well, I'll let them know. Like, there was one child,
honey, I would have been like, honey, you're standing on my pavement. Can you please get off my property? Shade.
You want
to know what shade is?
Well, let me tell you, then there was one child just in 2013 that I really never seen face to face, but he's like 300 pounds, and he was going off all the time. And he was like, and blah, 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 blah. And this, I said, my honey, the way you look, since I'm smoking so much crack, then you need to smoke some, honey. Maybe it might give you some face.
Maybe it might give you some eyesight beyond eyesight.
And it might help you lose some weight. I don't glorify drugs. I already release the power somebody can have on me because I announced my drug addiction, and sober, it doesn't matter. You're still an addict. You're going to be an addict for the rest of your life. But the thing is that, I never, and even though I was a functional addict, and what I mean by that is like, every day I had my side from a job, and I worked in Wall Street, New York City, for 15 years as a data communications technician, which I ran systems, and I had to monitor to make sure all the brokerage firms that we were attached to, like Fidelity Trust and DLJ London, EF Hutton and Goldman Sachs, that make sure that their computers and terminals got all that information before the closing of the market. So I held a prestigious executive position, which in turn is the reason why I walked exec at the balls. And I remember one grand ball when all I heard was Junior LaBeija on the microphone saying, all right, Kevin Omni got stocks and bonds in here. They were all mine.
Realness.
Okay? Then I became legendary exec. I even walked traveling exec. Had the plane ticket, had to have the passport, had to have the, we're talking like the 80s, so they were going to come out with their suit. Honey, you said realness, traveling exec. You need to show them what you're doing as a traveling exec. And I'd give them my resume, and I would bring them my job direct with my name highlighted so they wouldn't get it, excuse my expression, fucked up. They get it twisted, but don't. Okay. So there was a lot of that I just covered right there. So I'm gonna go back to you and see what else you need to know.
That was great. Like, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Omni, Ultra Omni. Okay, I want to go into the Legends panel. It's time to take you into the Legends panel. Are you ready?
The panel.
The Legends.
First, you have to give me a script. You're going to give me a script, Legends?
No, the Legends panel is we're going to give you an exclusive interview about the ballroom scene.
Okay, let me just take a deep breath. That's what you got to do.
Take a long, good hold it for 5 seconds until she marinates into the lungs and eat it. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Question number 1. When was the scene officially established?
Okay, well, there's, I guess this would be to everyone's opinion, because what they say is they have to either accept it for the way I'm putting it out there, they'll come up with their own conclusions. But I'll just say that the ball scene started back in the 15th century. How about that?
Okay.
When Marie Antoinette and King Louis I think he was the 16th, would sit on a throne, have the lords and the nobles and the dukes and duchess and the prince and princesses judge people's costumes. If they liked you and they approved you, they held their gold goblet up, meaning you got to. If they didn't hold their goblet up, that means take your raggedy costume, you and your and get off. So it could go back as far as the 15th century. Then to modern day time, the 60s, where they had the ball, uptown, the Phil Black ball. You had the cotillion balls in Flatbush that were for the white people. And people like Doreen Corey and Paris Dupree would go to those balls because they could walk down Flatbush. Because, you know, you had these gangs, the Lords of Flatbush. They didn't want to see black people up in Flatbush, Brooklyn, honey. No. Okay. So we were saying like the 60s, and then you had, well, you even had, I would even go back further than the black balls. You had the balls at the Rockland Ballroom, and I believe they started like in 1955. Okay. So the structure of what we're doing now is because in the 70s it was basically drag balls. You could have probably called them pageants, but one male category in 1977 that started, and it was called Butch, Mod, Face. That means Butch, you had to be realness. Mod, you had to look like a model and have face. 3 in 1. Like they call some of those categories now trilogy, you know, where you have to do all 3 things. Maybe foot and eyewear, belt, but whatever. So, you know, the balls that with all the male categories that we have now, like executive, town and country, futuristic, bizarre, leather versus suede, all those categories started like around 1980.
Okay.
You know, so, and they just built, you know, from one thing to another. You know, just like when I used to walk face before I was 25, it was just face. Then when Miss Erskine and them reached 25, it was face over 25 for a while. Then they made it face over 30. Then they made it legendary face. You know, things kind of progressed.
Started evolving.
And metamorphosized.
Yeah. Okay, question number 2.
Okay.
What were the original houses?
Okay, well, let's say what the original houses are. Let's say, because I might answer 2 of your questions in one. I know that the first house was the House of LaBeija, and Lottie LaBeija started that house. And she was the founder. And then Crystal LaBeija was the mother. Crystal, I believe it was 1972. And there was a lot of things going on because there was something called the Brooklyn Ladies, and that included Paris Dupree, Pepper LaBeija, and I believe La Duchess Wong, and Kim Dior, and all those girls, you know. But I'm just trying to just think. So LaBeija, I would say, was first, and then you had Paris Dupree started the House of Dupree in 1975, and Miss Avis, I believe, came to New York, because she's really a Washington native. I believe she came in like maybe 1977, and the house of, okay, so we got LaBeija 72, we got Wong, which is Duchess, back in 72. Then you got Paris Dupree in 1975, the House of Dupree. Then you have the House of Christian with Erskine is 1977. Then you have the House of Ebony, Chanel, and Omni in 79. Oh, excuse me. And the House of Princess is 1978.
All right. So
you have hold on, I just want to write it down. LaBeija, Pendarvis. No, LaBeija. Oh God, I'm getting old. I'm forgetting the House of Dior as well. The House of Dior was ran by Jay Dior, and I believe Jay has been going to the ball in 72 as well. So you have LaBeija, you have Wong, which is Duchess. Then you have Jay Dior, which was the House of Dior. The House of Dior today is not affiliated with the original House of Dior, and because they weren't under Jay unless they contacted Jay and got permission. Then you had Paris Dupree, the House of Dupree. Then you had the House of Christian in 77. And you had the House of Princess in 78. And you had the House of Omni, Ebony. Well, also Ebony came out in 78 too. And in 1979, you had Omni and Chanel. And I believe 1981, you had Saint Laurent, and you had Extravaganza as early as 1982. So, and then you had Willie Ninja being the House of Ninja from around that time as well. So do you have that?
Right. Okay. So what were the original categories?
Okay, the original categories, I'm going to try to remember. Well, you had that one category for the male. So I only really, I can remember some of the Femme Queen categories. We had performance, which was Vogue category, 1980 to about 82. Then they started Pop, Dip, and Spin. And I'm trying to think, Facial Performance came out in about 82 as well. So you had Facial Performance, you had Pop, Dip, and Spin. They also called that voguing category Excalibur. You had categories, Body was always there for both the Femme Queens and the Butch Queens. You had High Fashion Evening Wear. This is both Femme Queen and Butch Queens that I'm announcing right now. You had High Fashion Evening Wear. You had High Fashion Executive. Then you had Executive Realness. You had Shopping Down Fifth Avenue. You had Leather versus Suede. You had Town and Country. You had Nostalgia, which was really a great category because, baby, they used to bring them from the Charleston days and the Mardi Gras. It was just so over for them. And then you had that legendary category, Futuristic versus Bizarre versus Space Illusion, which I actually, for my first ball, adopted Space Age Illusion. I always wanted to see a year or an outfit somebody would be wearing thousands of years from now. So those were the beginning categories, and now you have everything from Siren, which, kind of came from Body, because some guys have body, but they're not sexy. So they needed to give something to the sexy Siren kids. Then they had to break that down into junior sex Siren, Catboy, and this, that, and other. So these categories have metamorphosized through the years. And we used to have runway models effect. We didn't have American runway or European runway. We got on that floor for runway models effect, and that's what everybody sang in chants on the microphone, which is runway models effect. What else? I know I might be missing. Then we had big boys, that category, because there was a lot of big children walking the balls. Right. And, it would be fair that they had their own category. So,
watch out for
the one category,
watch out for the girls.
Yeah, I also remember ethnic effect, bringing it from a foreign country. And that was one of the original categories. Oh, and then we had Sinister Eyes, which I won that too. You had to have sinister eyes, and they were looking. You didn't want some shadiness. You had to lift your eyebrow and give everybody this on the panel and in the audience like y'all all look tired. And I got something planned for you.
The balls were so different back then.
Yeah, because you know what? Everybody had fun. And, I had the first videotape that was ever videotaped of a ball. It was 1982. The ball is called Harlem Fantasy, okay? And that was the beginning of the Harlem Fantasy balls. That was part 1 all the way to part 10, Harlem Fantasies, that were given by Doreen Corey and Pepper LaBeija. I'm on that tape walking Butch Queen first time in drag.
Wow.
And they had a screening after 30 years. From 1982 to 2012 was the first screening of Harlem Fantasy, which I attended, and I was one of the hosts, and I did the question and answers, and the people were asking me, well, Kevin, what was the thing about the balls? I said, even your rivals, like you'll see on the tape, Miss DeRay Princess standing there for models effect, and Miss Taxi, her competitor, both of them grabbed hands and walked down the runway together. Right. They would do their little shady look at each other while they're standing at the beginning of the runway, but as they came down the runway, they held hands. So there was unity, camaraderie, and there was more having fun. Then when you look at the body category, them girls came. They were walking out with their titties exposed. They were walking out. Some of them look real fierce. I'm talking about, not attractive. But guess what? Nobody booed. Nobody kikied. They clapped, and you can hear the claps, and you can see how much people were having fun, and it didn't matter because you were there to have fun. That's what has been lost in the ballroom community, having fun, because everybody now is concerned with status rather than the fact that, okay, I need your trophy. Like before I got legendary status, I was, it was 19. William Dupree got on the microphone and he says, anybody that went over me for executive, because he had been winning for years until I came along, he said, is a legend. So I was announced that it was him, William Dupree, and Michael Dupree's ball, Michael Andrews Dupree. And I was named a legend then. But I was given a